Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, I was fired early in my career by a team of 2 senior people I reported to. Revenge came in time. I blew up a romance scammer's life. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I was fired early in my career by a team of 2 senior people I reported to. Revenge came in time. When I was in my early 20s trying to make it in the world and just starting out, I reported to a senior sales team as a junior salesperson. Really, it was a support role and I knew my place: watch, stay quiet, learn and help them. I report to a lady who was mid-level and the senior guy who was head of sales. I was green, and while I was seeking mentorship and periodically asking for advice to improve how I was able to support them, they mistook it for incompetence. It was simple things like learning what format each of them preferred their daily reports in, and tasks they had to do. I also had an issue because the senior guy basically stole my first bonus at the 3-month mark. It was tiny amount to him, but a lot for young me. I didn't officially complain but asked him about how he was able to keep my bonus when it was obvious it tracked back to my efforts on the data. He didn't like that and didn't pay me. I was doing a good job, I'm fully aware of my skills. But with the explanation it's just not working out, they fired me a few weeks later. I spent a couple months getting a new job, which turned out to be an amazing smaller firm where I was appreciated, mentored correctly and thrived. The new firm was very successful. They brought me into a room, the 2 of them, and fired me. SHE was the one who said it's just not working out, and he said, so we're letting you go, even to my question as to why, since from the beginning I had been doing well. About 2 years later, after I'd become a vital but still junior part of the smaller company, my former firm closed up in the region and put everyone out of work. So I saw through the glass while walking by the boardroom one day that the senior guy who stole my bonus was being interviewed for a job at my current firm. My current superiors didn't see me walk by, but my old boss and I made eye contact. Now, in a small sales team at a small firm, it's important to have a nice working relationship and trust. It's also a lot of selfish salespeople who are there to make money and don't like being ripped off. So later that afternoon, I quietly mentioned to the one boss I saw X in the office today when I walked by, I used to work for him, that asshole stole my bonus one time. It was all I needed to say because the last thing my current boss needed was a person who'd do that on our team. Then times got tough and I know that man spent 2 years looking for work. 6 or 7 years later, I was at a new company in a more senior role, and the one lady who I originally reported to called me and was selling at a new firm, and she was calling to ask if I'd be interested in purchasing from her. I didn't know she had started working there. The firm she was with was selling something that was very basic and interchangeable to competing firms. She'd gone from selling important things to selling a nothing product after the original firm closed. She acted all happy and nice to me and recalled the great job I did when we worked together. I also know she didn't want to be talking to me, but her call log said she had to call. I told her thanks and send me along an official quote and proposal. Several hours of work for her. In the industry we were in, she was paid not only on new sales but a net sales measurement, meaning she had to retain clients as well and bring in new ones. I had a lot of commitment at the firm she was now at. While she spent her afternoon drafting a proposal, I spent a couple hours pulling all my business from that company and subbing it for a competitor up the street. She emailed me a full proposal and mentioned she was excited to be working with me again and supporting my business. She had no idea yet I just pulled everything and she would never receive a bonus this year because of the size of the amount I pulled. The next day she emailed me quite upset and had CC'd her boss, who I'd known for years and had a good working relationship with. I replied to all and thanked her and said I decided to go with a competitor because it just won't work out, as I find your approach to business dealings to be insincere. Her boss emailed me back directly and asked what happened, and I replied that I just don't think she is a sincere person. My business to their firm was worth more than her job, and she didn't last more than a month there after that. I thought this was petty through the first part, but you torpedoed that woman's career. I guess the lesson learned is to treat people nicely regardless of age or experience, because they could eventually be in a position to destroy you just for fun. That's why they say to be careful how you treat people on your way up. You might meet them again on your way back down. Absolutely. I heard it originally as, when you climb the ladder of success, be careful who you step on, as you may meet them again on the way down. I worked for a guy who always had someone on his target list to be fired. Didn't matter if everyone was good, someone was always under the gun. After a few years, I saw myself heading for the target list, so I took the opportunity to transfer to a larger group with more opportunities. A couple years later, his department got closed down and he did an initial interview to join my group. I told my new boss this guy is a cancer and gave him a brief history. He wasn't hired. I've worked for these types and they're the absolute worst. Keeping employees under constant pressure like that ends up with losing a lot of talented people. I saw a guy's name on a sales interview list who had gone out of his way to throw me under the bus as an SE for things that were his responsibility as an AE. That guy's no good, was all I had to say to our VP of sales. He said that's enough for me and erased his name from the board. I blew up a romance scammer's life. This one is fresh and still unfolding, but it's already hit an explosive level. Some details intentionally vague. Context: I'm a woman in my 30s with a reasonably good corporate type job in a field with lots of room for growth, and am recently back into the dating scene after a decade. I'm kind of a would-be a 10 if she lost 30 pounds looking girl, beautiful face if a bit chubby, but I never have issues getting a date. I'm not well off, but I'm stable and have a bit of spending money. I live in a large multicultural city and my ex was an immigrant, so I'm open to dating people of any origin. What happened? A few weeks ago I met a very charming man from a Latin American country only a couple years younger than me. Seemed very sweet, cuddly, intelligent, family-oriented, emotionally available, educated and in a good profession back home in his country, and had a lot in common with me. Chemistry seemed amazing inside and outside the bedroom. He was honest that he was in my country on a tourist visa but hoping to stay. I made it clear I wouldn't be able to help him with that, but we'd have a fun summer fling while he was here. If he managed to stay or come back, only then would we consider a real relationship. Then the other shoe dropped. A couple weeks and 4 dates in, during a text conversation about my work, he asked me to be his sugar mommy. I initially laughed and assumed it was a joke. He kept pushing and clearly said it wasn't. Of course, feeling insulted by this, I went off on him. He maintained it as a serious ask until I hit a nerve with my complaints about how embarrassed he should be to ask me that. Then he got angry and insulted me for thinking he was serious about it. No apology for being hurtful to me. Obviously, what I did next was take screenshots and cry about it to my closest friends. I was hurt that I was fooled into thinking he liked me and that he thought I needed to pay for a man. My friends started the fuse on what happened next. One of my friends started snooping more on his online presence. Together we found about 6 different Instagram accounts that were him using different variations of his name and different photos of himself, all uploaded in batches. On Facebook, a similar pattern. All very scammy and suspicious looking. He'd been foolish enough on one of his profiles though to follow and tag the employer that he was working for illegally on his tourist visa in my country. So I contacted another close friend in a local law enforcement agency that works with immigration. She looked up his file. He had a wife and daughter at home. I released the hounds after that. The friend who helped me investigate online made several group chats on multiple platforms with all of his family, immediate and extended, and friends. She released all the screenshots as well as a rant about how shameful it was. As they started blocking her, she added more people. I found his sister's phone number. She sent her messages on there too. Everyone he knows, including his wife, know he's unfaithful and trying to take advantage of women. 30 minutes after the online bombardment started, I got a rude message from him about how I should be smart enough to know he was joking and he doesn't need to sell himself. I didn't reply. Next step? Online immigration reporting form with all the info we found: work info, employer name and address, his home address, full name, DOB, photos, screenshots admitting to working. Usually these reports take months to be reviewed, if at all, but I gave the file number to my law enforcement friend. 2 days later, law enforcement officers visited him at home. They found him with a phone number that was issued to a local resident. All his roommates also had numbers issued to the same person, a direct link to the employer. He received a caution for trying to scam me, a no-contact order and a flag on his immigration file that, based on his country of origin, will likely mean he can never return, as well as a strict warning to not work without authorization. His roommates also received warnings. His employer received a visit next. They found significant proof that they'd been employing him illegally, as well as multiple other people. Their investigation is still ongoing, but so far they are likely to receive tens of thousands in fines or possible jail time. The guy isn't getting deported because the government would have to pay for it and proceedings take longer than his remaining visa time, but he's now upgraded from a flagged file to a multi-year ban on re-entry to my country. If he bothers me again, though, he will be deported as well. Hope he enjoys going back to his angry wife and the ridicule from everyone he knows. See ya again, never. 2 days later, law enforcement officers visited him at home. They found him with a phone number that was issued to a local resident. It sounded made up until this part, then it really jumped the shark. Self-proclaimed "I'm a 10 if I lost 30 pounds" made me believe it more, tbh. Only someone so egotistical to believe that about themselves would ruin someone's life instead of just breaking up with them. Assuming his roommates aren't pulling the same stunt, I feel bad for them being collateral damage in all of this. It's one thing to go after him, it's another thing to cause a domino effect which affects others who didn't do anything to her. She didn't know he was living with a group, out of her hands once the ball got rolling. Totally on him. Cool. I am glad you dealt out punishments to scammers. What is up with that narcissistic statement in the first paragraph? You would be a 10 if you lose 30 pounds? Just saying that nonsense alone would net you a -5. Yes, this struck me as odd. Much like saying you don't mind dating people of any origin, it is a very telling statement in its inclusion. Where is the scammer part? He asked you to be his sugar mommy, which seems pretty honest. He could be a scammer, but you were not scammed in this scenario. It sounds to me like he was running a racket, trying to get a bunch of women to be his sugar mommy and splurge money and other things on him that he'd take, and then goes back home to his wife and kid. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.